we are visiting with North Dakota Game and Fish Director Jeb Williams to go over some of the highlights in 2023 and some of the challenges coming up in 2024. I'm Mike Anderson with the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Jeb, a year ago, early January, we were in a full-blown winter. This year, a little different. How did last year's winter affect our wildlife?
Well, from a big game perspective, Mike, it was tough. We had a full 6 months of winter out there. It was tough on people, tough on wildlife alike. We had a lot of concerns over some fisheries as well. That turned out to maybe not be as bad as what we originally thought it was going to be. But certainly from a big game perspective, deer, pronghorn, definitely pretty tough. Our upland game birds, more specifically pheasants, maybe came through the winter a little better than what we anticipated, but we also had a really nice production year this year as far as pheasant reproduction this summer, which of course really added to a nice population here this fall.
And so far already, they've had 2 months less of winter so far this year.
Yeah, I think everybody would agree we're in a much better situation than what we were a year ago at this point in time. We, last year at this point in time, already had a couple feet of snow on the landscape and some extreme cold weather before we even got to Christmas time. And so we're much better ahead, and I think everybody agrees that that's kind of what we needed this winter as well.
Jeb, early January, mid-January 2023, legislative session as well.
It was, and had of course, every other year legislative session convenes in North Dakota for the regular session, I should say. And some positive outcomes associated with the session, some challenging things in there as well, but some positive outcomes that we've dealt with a lot here now this fall. Just a couple of examples on the youth deer licenses, to where the individuals that receive the youth whitetail antlerless license, they can now hunt during the regular gun season. Provides more opportunity, and understanding the challenging nature of youngsters' schedules nowadays with all the activities, and just gives them a little more opportunity. Also dealing with elk populations in certain areas, working with landowners to provide antlerless licenses for those individuals experiencing too many elk in a particular area, while also allowing some additional access to people that have those once-in-a-lifetime licenses. So kind of a win-win, and been a pretty popular program so far. So always appreciate those opportunities when we can work with the legislature and get some real positive outcomes for our citizens of the state.
Jeb, ice fishing was tough last year. All the snow, as we mentioned, access was hard. But I tell you what, once spring actually came in May, walleye fishing was probably the best it's ever been, not only on the big three, Devil's Lake, Lake Skakawea, and Lake Oahe, but a lot of the prairie lakes as well.
Yeah, no, I think you're right when you say that, and some of the data points that we have probably do indicate that it probably will go down as the best year ever in North Dakota for walleye fishing, and probably fishing in general. And that is a really nice thing when you have the opportunities outside of the big three, the big water bodies in North Dakota, because we know there's a lot of distance for some people, to those three water bodies. And so if you have some of the productivity that we're seeing in some of the prairie lakes out there, that really helps folks out as far as their opportunities close to home, and knowing that some of those lakes have been very productive in these last several years. So just a phenomenal year fishing wise in all corners of the state and everywhere in between.
A lot of credit to our fisheries crews.
No doubt. North Dakota has the most aggressive stocking program. We have a very unique system in place with the federal fish hatcheries, 2 federal fish hatcheries. We're the only state that doesn't have a state-owned fish hatchery, but have very unique partnership and relationship with our hatcheries. And then again, a very ambitious and dedicated fisheries crew that do the stocking efforts and have really shown, have really seen the successes of those efforts in all areas of the state.
And they're maintaining access on a lot of these lakes as well.
It's a big part. Anytime we're stocking a lake, we have public access associated with it. Again, whether that's shore fishing, but oftentimes boat access. And so the demand for those types of access points has certainly increased, and our folks have been able to provide that. So lots of positivity there.
Jeb, one positive thing with all the snow that we got last year, actually two positive things, filled some of our lakes up and created some upland game nesting habitat last summer.
It did. So there's no doubt going into the spring of last year, we had had some moisture from the winter to get things started, to get our habitat conditions going out there and start going in the right direction. And then as spring came, early summer, the rain kept coming as well in most areas of the state. And so the habitat conditions across the state were in good shape, and that really did lead to some good production when it come to our upland bird and nesting seasons and just that perfect weather period. Things weren't too hot, they weren't too cold, and we had again good rainfall, good conditions out there, which created a lot of diversity with insects. Which of course we all know leads to a successful, when birds are out there raising their young, that insect population is extremely important for the success of those young birds.
Jeb, enforcement division's always busy.
Yeah, lots of public engagement going on with our law enforcement, and again for our land mass and the number of wardens out there. I mean, that's they have the biggest job in the nation, according to our land mass and the number of wardens we have. So we know they cover a lot of ground, and the public engagement is extremely important with landowners, hunters, anglers, trappers. I mean, anybody that has questions or is interested, and over 50,000 individual public engagement contacts taking place with those individuals, and that's what we want. We want our wardens to be very visible. We want them to be go-to as far as information, questions, not just somebody who's writing somebody a ticket. And so we're seeing some really positive data points associated with that public engagement taking place.
Jeb, let's move into fall hunting. I mean, it seemed like there's a lot of pheasants, a lot of grouse, a lot of partridge. Partridge is a highlight of 2023.
Yeah, no doubt. I think hearing a lot of real positive things associated with our upland game birds in general, but partridge seemed to be, and we did hear that some last year as well too, that definitely partridge on the upswing a little bit, and then this year definitely seeing that as well, but also just a really nice population of pheasants in a good chunk of the state. And then as well as grouse too. So probably a more memorable fall this year in the form of upland game hunting compared to big game, compared to deer or pronghorn. Some pretty limited opportunities there. We know that the public would like more opportunities with deer and pronghorn, but we're at a point in time right now where we're trying to build some of those populations in various areas, and so that takes being a little bit restrictive on the number of licenses given. So probably more memorable in the form of upland game hunting and even some waterfall opportunities. No doubt had some weather that held some birds here. There was some birds that moved out with kind of the late October storm a little bit, but also some other areas where we actually held a number of birds later on, just due to the kind of extended fall that we've had.
And the nesting habitat for waterfowl as well.
Yeah, for sure. And so again, we're looking forward to the opportunities and what next year will provide as well.
Jeb, you can't do a program without talking about the plots program.
Yeah, still one of probably the most commented on, the most popular programs the department has. We know that access, as each year we go on, access gets to be a little more competitive in various areas. I mean, people have to really make sure that they're doing homework to where they're going, and so the plots program does provide a nice benefit to folks, and we hear a lot of positive comments on that. We still want to maintain and make sure we're having good quality habitat in some of those areas, but while also meeting a wide variety of needs and interests from both landowners and hunters. And so there's some uniqueness to the program. There's some differences in the program as far as the availability for landowners to choose from, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that there's some component associated with that does have a good quality to it that hunters can expect.
Jeb, moving into 2024, we always have challenges, but list some challenges for the Game and Fish Department in 2024.
Well, yeah, like you said, we always have challenges with Mother Nature. That's something that's out of our control. But again, we're at least we feel like we're ahead of what we were last year, like we talked about earlier. And right now, there's no doubt challenges as far as big game populations, more specifically white-tailed deer, mule deer, and pronghorn. And so again, we know from a really tough winter last year that's going to take a little bit of time. We've had some disease concerns over the last number of years, specifically EHD that definitely took its toll. But we're seeing some populations fill back in, which happens, but those things just take some time as well. And so we're always going to have the challenges, but again, we're well equipped as a department to take on some of those challenges and concerns that are out there, and we look forward to them. And
every year we have habitat challenges. We need more in habitat.
Yeah, and I think that having the programs available, it gets back to our public engagement a lot, and especially with our folks in our private lands program. We've added maybe a few more tools in that toolbox as far as working with landowners to add some habitat on the landscape, and again, engaging some partners to help with some of those opportunities as well. So that's a continuous challenge we have in North Dakota. When North Dakota is dominated by private land ownership, we need to be working with private landowners, and we know we can always make improvements in how we do that, and looking at the type of programs that meet each different landowner, because they're all different, their operations are different, and what might work for them. So
some of the other challenges we have every year, aquatic nuisance species and chronic wasting disease.
Yeah, two issues that we have been tracking for quite some time now, and again, trying to use the tools that we have out there to reduce the footprint that they can have on the landscape, and so we're going to again continue to assess our tools and rely on the best information to how we can reduce the risk of those two things spreading on the landscape and creating a bigger footprint on the landscape, which can create problems down the road.
2024 is looking pretty good for outdoor recreationists.
Well, we're off to a good start anyway. Again, with Mother Nature, looking the way it has been so far, and again, knowing that we're always going to have good opportunities in North Dakota. There's always going to be something that a person can have, adequate or even more than adequate opportunities, but then there's always going to be other things that are maybe down. And so if a person appreciates all aspects of the outdoors, you're always going to have something that's going to keep you busy and occupied.
A lot of great information, Jeb. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.